Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing. Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Man, big trouble over there in the Devin Haney camp. And this is the kind of stuff you don't want to see happening with the fighter, especially a young guy like Devin, before his big fight with George Kambosos in Australia. It's very, very unfortunate, but Devin Haney's father and head coach has been denied entry into Australia. And it's really sad. It's some stuff he did back when he was a young guy in his early 20s that's just coming back, unfortunately, to haunt him. And you can see, obviously, he has his stuff together now. You can see the kind of son that he raised. And unfortunately, when you make some mistakes, whether they're huge mistakes or something minor, but there's some mistakes you make in life that they're just like inescapable, man. Like you can never recover from that. And that's one of the parts of just the whole judicial system that sucks. But at the same time, I get it. Put yourself in that position, and this is kind of the fallout. And not all of us put ourselves in that position, but somehow we end up in it. But in this case, it looks like he actually put himself in that position, made some bad choices, and these are just part of the consequences. And these are like long-term consequences. So my understanding is Devin's father, who's his lead trainer, his visa hasn't been approved, and that denied him entry to Australia for Devin's bout. But there are a lot of rumors that were going on about Devin missing the press conference and Kambosos calling him scared, and everybody saying that as long as he shows up for the fight, and you know how it is. Most people are always going to gravitate towards the most negative thought without really peeling the layers back and waiting to get an explanation. Because one thing about Devin and Devin's father, I tend to trust what the father says. And when there was an issue with them showing up to the press conference, I just couldn't see them not showing up. Like, there has to be a reason. And that's something that I learned over the 25 years of what I used to do, is that when somebody doesn't show up somewhere, there's always that 80% who think, oh, they're just being lazy, oh, they overslept, oh, they just be irresponsible. And then there's a 20% of us who will say, well, hold on a second. The person normally shows up, suddenly they don't. First, let's make sure that they weren't in a car accident. Make a phone call. If they don't answer the phone, let's get a runner out there. Get somebody to drive over to their place and go see what's going on. If you can't do that, you get in contact with someone who's able to go out there and physically make contact with the person. But let's before we jump to conclusions, let's sort some things out. And of course, that's not what always happens, but when you get that concentric few who think like that, it keeps things calm and doesn't create consternation amongst people. And with this, Devin's dad decided to go ahead and dispel the rumors. And he went on and said he wasn't able to board the flight. Visa wasn't approved, and he wasn't allowed to go through customs, which, really sucks and is embarrassing. He did some things at 22 to 23, around Devin's age, and he says he's hopefully he won't ever make those mistakes. But he obviously was for some drug offensive 30 years ago, and as a result of something from 30 years ago, he can no longer travel with his son as of right now to Australia. And the biggest fight, and this right here is what really hits at the heart. But I know there are some people who are going to say, well, he shouldn't have did it. And there are others who are going to understand that, the man paid for the mistakes he made. And it's really unfortunate, but that he has to go through this. But at the same time, being a professional, makes you wonder, like, why didn't you sort out, like, how come this wasn't sorted out? Like, how could how could he or his team, but in particular him, the biggest fight of your son's life, like, not have sorted this out? They've traveled internationally before, so I don't see why all of a sudden it's become an issue. That's the question. Like, why is it becoming an issue now? But anyway, he has a felony on his record. He served time on the drug conviction. And any conviction you've had where you served a year or more stops you from getting into the country. And that's the problem right there. But Haney Sr. denied it would impact his son's performance. I beg to differ. I think that can definitely impact his son's performance because you're used to hearing a certain voice in the ear. And Devin has a pretty top-notch team, been constructed of a lot of very smart people who have helped him get to this point. But he's been hearing his dad's voice for all these years, so I find that hard to believe that it's not going to affect his performance. Now, I still think Devin is an exceptional boxer, but he's already going there with an uphill battle, okay? And now his pops isn't going to be there, which is just, for me, man, it kind of tugs at my heart a bit because I couldn't imagine not being there for one of my four sons for, what would be the biggest moment in their careers, and for me not to be able to be there. But he said we're not going to let anything get in the way of the moment. Devin's going to show up and show out, do what he does best. This could work. So let me ask you a question. This could be what Devin needs to get him up that hill that he's going to have to battle and climb, and to get to the top. Because I already said, one, he's in Australia, he's in Kambosos' backyard. Two, he's the potential of having issues with judges, which we know they're bringing in the best of the best. There's going to be a lot of visibility on the fight. You can't think that a judge is willing to throw away their livelihood by coming in there and making a bad call. But at the same time, there is corruption, and there is the situation that Devin's got himself into with Top Rank, and it's a multi-fight deal where he has to, if he wins, continue to do the rematch, maybe a third fight, then Lomachenko. So this could be what it takes to fuel him to victory and end up getting a knockout. But it's just not that easy against a guy like Kambosos. The boxing match, got to give Devin the upper hand. But Kambosos, you're just not going to keep hitting Kambosos and Kambosos go into a shell and climb up. Like, that's not Kambosos, what I call the Australian Manny Pacquiao. But this just makes it even more interesting. But the thing is, if Devin's dad's not going to be in the corner, well, who's going to be in his corner? Well, this is the thing. Yoel Judah, Zab Judah's dad, is going to be in the corner. Now, what do you think about that? So the father of former two-weight world champion Zab Judah. And, Zab always calls Haney his nephew. And Joel has no issue with getting in there and helping out. And who is Zab Judah's dad? And Devin's godfather is Zab. So, there's a good relationship. And I guess we'll see what happens. But, is Yoel Judah, I just think back to watching Yoel Judah with Zab in the corner, and the way he used to articulate things to Zab, and how animated he was, and how full of emotion he was. He and Zab had their own language, their own way of communicating. That doesn't seem like it's going to really kind of work out very well with him talking to Devin. Now, maybe Yoel has been in Devin's camps. Maybe he's a voice he's used to hearing. But Yoel Judah gets pretty, at least back when Zab was boxing, he may have really calmed down now. But it just doesn't seem like a good fit, But that's just me on the outside looking in. I think what it sounds like to me is Bill Haney knows that Yoel, in his heart, would have the best interest in mind for his son, and will protect his son and make sure his son's okay. as far as trainer-wise and doing the best job as far as coaching him, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, he's an 8. Maybe there's some other guys who are 10s. But as far as making sure his son is safe and doesn't get bullied or mistreated, Yoel Judah is a 10 out of 10, and other people are probably the 8s. And that's probably the most important thing, is making sure that that boy is okay, he's safe, he's being treated the right way. Because it doesn't matter if you have a super top-notch trainer who's a 10 out of 10. If there's other distractions going on and it's getting to the fighter and you're not preventing the fighter from that, it's going to affect his training, it's going to affect his performance. And that's what we can't afford to have. So when you frame it like that, I think that's probably that's probably the best decision that they could have made. So we'll see how it's all going to work out now, but it's a little, that sucks, but that's what it is, man. You can't be, things come back to haunt you, and it really sucks. And I really feel bad for Devin Haney and his pops and everybody else. Really unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yoel Judah is going to be in the corner for Devin Haney. A lot of people are going to have opinions on this, but I think that people should remember that Zab is much older. Yoel is much older. I just can't see Yoel going in there with the same type of energy and attitude he had with Zab. Devin Haney is a different person. Zab Judah is cut from a different cloth. Now, again, when it comes as far as their commitment to boxing and the ferociousness, I think they're both the same. But Zab is definitely can handle more of the harsh language and in your face and shouting and spit flying out the mouth and all the colorful behavior that used to come from Yoel Judah. But we'll see. But now this just like really spices up that fight, because at first I thought, man, this Devin's surely gonna lose the fight now. But now I'm like, well, hold on, this right here may actually fuel him to victory. Like, this may be what it took. Like, okay, I'm not gonna use this as an excuse to lose the fight. I'm gonna use this as an excuse to work harder and find a way to win and motivate myself to go out there and get a victory, knowing that all the disadvantages are against me. And I think that's what's gonna happen. But anyway, man, if you're hung in there to the end of this video, thank you. Hit the like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Trying to get the channel to 1,000 subscribers. We're got a little bit more work to do, but we're almost there. And as always, you guys keep safe, and I'm in the breeze.